be showing you how to make pizza at home in your home oven, and trust me, you're gonna love it. So we'll hop into the kitchen and I'll show you how to do it. So you need to do to make the pizza is to get your trusty pizza stone and just pop it in the base of the oven, kind of in the center there. And then I just put the shelves up out of the way, and then we're going to turn the oven on to full bore so it can heat up. And it's important that you don't put your pizza, so if you forget your pizza stone, don't put it into a really hot oven, because you're just asking for trouble, it's going to crack. And same when you finish as well, if I forget to tell you, make sure you just let the oven cool down before you take the pizza stone out, because they're sensitive to temperature changes. Okay, so I've weighed out the flour. We've got 250 grams, and now I'm just going to use like about a teaspoon of yeast, but you could just use a sachet if your yeast comes in sachets. And I just keep this in the fridge. That's really easy and a lot less packaging. So, and then we want some salt. So I'm going to actually do 2 teaspoons of salt, just kind of scant teaspoons there, because we want to have lovely flavour. And then the water, so 160 grams. And I find it's easier to weigh the water in. If you don't have a set of kitchen scales, I really recommend getting them. They're really inexpensive these days, and it just makes life so much easier. You know, and this one I can do it in both metric and imperial, so it's kind of, if you come across a recipe that isn't, rather than converting, you can just use a scale. It's easy. It makes you more flexible. So we're just going to stir that together. So the dough's going to start out quite wet, and I think the secret to pizza dough, same as in bread making, it's to get we'll get rid of that. It's to get your dough kind of as wet as you kind of can, and that, so then you've got lots of moisture. So then when it's in the oven, the moisture, it kind of evaporates and it helps to expand and give you a lighter texture. So stir first with a spoon, and then I start kneading with my hand, and just till it all comes together into a kind of ball, and it starts to feel kind of wet and sticky. That's when we get bread and start kneading. And so sticky. But the aim here is to kind of to add as not much flour as you can, as you need to stop it from being too sticky, but then don't add so much that it gets too dry. So it's kind of a bit of a delicate thing with pizza, I've discovered. So what we're doing is just kind of folding the dough back over on itself, and we're just going to keep going with that. The longer you knead for, the kind of lighter the texture is going to be, because the more you're working the gluten, which is the protein in the flour. So I usually, a good thing to do is to like set a timer and just kind of get mindless and just keep kneading, until the time's up. So this dough's a little bit sticky, but it feels good actually. So I'm not going to try not to add any more flour. So the action is that you kind of fold it back, and then you're pushing it with the heel of your hand. So it's kind of, and you kind of rotate the dough as you go, but it doesn't matter too much, as long as you're just moving and working the dough. That's all you need to worry about at the moment. So I've been kneading for about 10 minutes, and probably not quite, and my alarm hasn't gone off yet. And the dough, it's changed, like it looks a lot smoother than it did when I started out. It's still not super smooth, but I'm kind of getting a bit bored with it, so that's going to do me for now. So we'll just get our bowl back, just pop a tiny bit of olive oil, come on, in the bottom, so the dough doesn't stick. You just want a really thin film, and we'll pop the dough in to rise. I'll cover that with cling. Okay, so while I'm waiting for my pizza dough to rise, just got it in that bowl. I've got a potato just sliced in half, just using a red skin potato. Pretty much, any potato is good for this. And I'm just going to slice it really finely with my bead slicer, which is kind of a fancy mandolin, but you could use a knife if you like. But what you want is kind of evenly thick slices of potato. Even finer than that would be good. So I'm going to just slice them up, and then I'm just going to put them in a bowl with some olive oil. So just a couple of tablespoons, and I've got some rosemary here. I'm just going to pull the sprigs pull the leaves off the sprig, so you can chop it up if you want, but I kind of like it to look quite rustic and pretty. And since this is such a minimalist pizza, you know, we really want to. So I'm just going to toss the potato in and make sure each slice gets coated with the oil. And then I'm just going to pop in some salt. It's been rising for about an hour, and you see, we're not looking for it to be, you know, super well risen here. So that's looking great. We've got the oil, a nice oil puddle at the bottom. So I've just sprinkled some flour on the work surface. We're making 2 pizzas today, so just divide the dough in half. And then I kind of start to spread it out a little bit in my hand, and if I was a good pizzeria person, I'd be able to do the whole thing by hand, but I'm not. So I'm just going to get my rolling pin. I've got on a floured surface there. I just kind of go around and roll her out thin. But you don't want to roll it too much, and it's probably going to work the dough too much. So just kind of give it a bit of a stretch as well. It's actually kind of good if you get kind of around the edges, because that's going to cook quicker. If it's a bit thicker at the edges and a little tiny bit thinner at the middle, I find that kind of works well. So when you get about that size, pizza size, I'm going to get my pizza peel and sprinkle that with some semolina. That's to make sure it doesn't stick, and it also gives it helps to give it a crunchy bottom. So we like that. So then just pop your pizza on, and just want to give it a wiggle to make sure it's not going to stick. I like to go to the edge, because I found in my home oven the dough at the edge, if you leave too much of a kind of border, it tends to burn. So it's topping kind of to the edge, and try not to overlap the potato too much, because you'll struggle to get it to cook, because we're using raw potato here. So I mean, it's not the end of the world if your potato's a little bit crunchy, but it's just nice if it is properly cooked. So just a little bit of overlapping is good, and then sprinkle on the extra rosemary and chili, all the tea flavour bits. And then I'm just going to put a couple of, you don't have, this is completely optional, but I'm just going to put in a couple of tiny bits of bocconcini or fresh mozzarella. Just open her up. And we've got the pizza peel, and I'm just going to kind of shake it off onto the stone, close her up, and we're going to cook it usually between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on how hot the oven is. Pizza's been in for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, and I'm just going to have a look, and that looks lovely, and you can see how it's browning on the edges. So we're just going to have a look underneath. That looks pretty good, and then it's a bit of an art form. Be careful because it's really hot. Let's pull it out. You can see it's cooked more on that end because of my oven, but that's looking great. Crust is risen, so we're good. And one thing we'll just do before before I put the next pizza in, see how there's some layer on the bottom, I'm just going to use an oven mitt and just get that off the pizza stone. And that's going to stop, because otherwise that'll burn in between and it'll be terrible.